This is Hannibal live here for my weekly review of the points I find interesting in Dave Meltzer's Wrestling Observer newsletter. Just finished a great interview with Rockin' Robin, former WWE Women's Champion, who sang America the Beautiful at WrestleMania 5. She is pure class. I was a fan of hers, and it was a pleasure to interview her. Also, want to say that I suck at pronouncing weird last names, but Andy the Crazen or Crazian, sorry, it's like Crazy Asian is her nickname. But she did send me a video of a fight she had during the weigh-in with her opponent. She won her fight tonight. Congratulations to her. I did post that video on this channel, so I've interviewed her before. Very cool lady. So I'll get into the news. Chug, I'm going to the States today, which I actually have to pack after this. Let me get into the wrestling news before I get any more distracted. In the Oliver Luck and Vince McMahon XFL legal battle, where Luck is suing WWE or suing Vince for $23.8 million because he says McMahon owes him that for his XFL deal, which was supposed to be guaranteed. The judge has set a deadline of February 4th, 2022 for evidence to be provided, and he wants to see both sides go to court March 7th. Luck was supposed to be under a guaranteed contract until June 30th, 2023, even though the league folded. But apparently when the league folded, Vince McMahon didn't want to pay him and instead claimed he was fired about 4 days prior to the company folding. Luck was supposed to make $96,153.80 per week through the end of his contract, plus an extra $2 million every June 30th. Huge pay for that guy. What a waste of money the XFL is for Vince McMahon. All the money he makes with the wrestlers, well, whatever. I guess it's his money. He can do what he wants. But there's so many wrestlers in bad shape after their careers, and he'll just literally waste millions and millions on XFL. Or remember in one case, WBF, all the money that the wrestlers made him. And at that time of the WBF, the wrestlers' WWE pay was pretty low, as has been documented in my interviews. But meanwhile, the XFL or WBF guys didn't have steroid testing where the WWE guys did. And they were getting paid a shitload to not have to be on the road. So it's not always fair, but it is his money. He can do whatever the hell he wants. WWE is looking to do a remake of American Gladiators with WWE wrestlers being gladiators. Well, one wrestler that will not be a gladiator for sure would be Kevin Owens. That would actually be hilarious. I would watch that to see Kevin Owens get beat up by the Contenders every week on American Gladiators. Apparently, Gable Stevenson, who's signed to WWE, is going to be the best paid amateur wrestler of all time. He's going back for his final year in Minnesota. He got paid $250,000 for winning the Olympic gold. He's making $20,000 a month in NFT money, and he now is also under a WWE guaranteed contract. So, if anyone remembers Daniel Galley, I believe the only male Canadian wrestler to win a gold medal, one of the reasons I decided not to go to college and pursue amateur wrestling was because one of the colleges I was going to go to, Simon Fraser University, where Daniel Galley was from, had him spend a day with me during my recruiting trip. And this guy was living in somebody's basement. He only had $25,000 sponsorship money from Cheerios, and his pay from the government for being a top athlete was like something like $1,000 a month, something very low. And he drove a car that my car as a 17-year-old at the time was nicer. So that's one of the reasons I went into pro wrestling. But now, as I'm bringing that up, because Gable Stevenson rolling in dough here, maybe that's going to make more people want to become amateur wrestlers. So that I would still say amateur wrestling is my favorite sport. So I like to see that. I don't like watching it, but it's my favorite. It was my favorite sport to do. WWE stock is high right now, apparently, and the company is valued at $4.289 billion. So anyone that thinks WWE is going out of business anytime soon, that's not happening. Let's get into the ratings. AEW Dynamite did a 0.45. Raw only beat it by 0.3 points, 0.48. NXT did a 0.14. Cody Rhodes' new reality show did a 0.17. It even beat NXT. Rampage did a 0.29. SmackDown did a 0.55. Dark Side of the Ring did a 0.07. Impact did a 0.03. And somebody mentioned why people care about the ratings. Well, these companies get most of their money, or a large chunk of it, I shouldn't say most, but a large chunk of their money from their TV deals, hundreds of millions of dollars in some cases. So this is why ratings are still important. Yes, I do realize people watch stuff on YouTube instead. When I watch wrestling clips, it's on YouTube. I haven't had cable since 2012. I'm just saying they still matter from a standpoint that they might not get renewed for as much money. For instance, Fox was expecting a 1 rating for SmackDown, average. They're only 2.5 years into the contract, from what I understand, out of a 5-year contract. And they've only hit a rating, a 1 rating for, I think, their first episode, and maybe one more time in 2.5 years. So that goes to show you that Fox overpaid them. So will that affect them when the TV deals come up again? I have no idea. But in theory, it would. Let's go into some attendance figures. Raw, September 25th in Hershey, did 6,790 fans. The 27th in Cincinnati, Ohio. That was a house show, by the way, in Hershey. The Raw main event tapings in Cincinnati did 3,700 paid. This is interesting. The September 28th Orlando, Florida NXT tapings, which tickets are free, only had 200 fans. That building seats 250 people. They cannot even get. You know what? You know one thing that I really think WWE should do if they want to make NXT more popular, and they'll never listen to me because they'd rather have Mick Foley's kid as a writer or Ultimate Warrior's ex-wife or widow as a writer. But if they wanted to make NXT more popular, they should take that on the road. Here's what I would do. I would get rid of the 2 brands, since all it does is water down each brand. Keep the main roster the best of the best if you want to fight AEW, which is gaining momentum. And then fire a bunch of people and put some of the better main roster guys who aren't quite cutting it in the main roster back in NXT and have NXT tour for their TV show. So at least more people want to watch it if it's like more of an exciting atmosphere than the same Performance Center studio. I mean, yeah, they've added more colors. Who the fuck cares? Honestly, Those colors look like they're from like the early 90s, like Zubaz multicolored pants that people would wear. You think changing those colors to fruity colors are going to make your product cool? I don't know. I find it terrible from the highlights that I've seen, but definitely cut the dual brands. It's going to be your downfall. Cut the two champions. You don't need it. Make your one roster the very best, then boost up NXT. That would be the smart thing to do. Changing the damn colors of the logo and making the venue hold an extra, what is it? It used to hold 180, now it holds 250, but you can't even fill 250 free tickets, and you couldn't even fill 180 some of the times before. I don't know. I'll shut up about that. The Dynamite in Rochester, New York had 6,100 paid, 6,500 total. Jake Roberts, whose sister, Rockin' Robin, I just interviewed, has been in a wheelchair because he recently underwent foot surgery. And he is returning as a manager. He managed Lance Archer in Rochester. Jake Roberts, I'm glad that he's with AEW and they seem to be taking care of him. I wish they would use his mind. He's supposed to have a great wrestling booking mind, and I somehow get the feeling they don't really use it. But it's good that he has a job and isn't having to like. Just a few years ago, guys like Jake would be having to drag themselves to independent shows, sometimes with less than 100 people, to wrestle. Half the time, some guy that hasn't been trained properly, just to get $1,000 payday. Fucking fly all the way around the country or sometimes to a different country. So I'm glad that there's more opportunities like that. I think Tully Blanchard, is this the longest job Tully Blanchard has ever had in a major company for AEW? He doesn't have to do the church circuit anymore. I don't know. I questioned some of these guys and their religious, including Jake's. Remember when he was doing the religious circuit? Funny stuff. Ryan Sakota passed away. There is a video of Rick Bassman, Paul London, Chris Masters, and Jimmy Yang talking about him. He's from UPW, was in the WWE in 2003, 2004, passed away at the age of 48. Sorry to hear about that. Harry Smith had made some posts that he was in Baltimore this week. Did anyone see SmackDown? I glanced through the results to see if Harry appeared in anything on SmackDown, and I couldn't see anything. So maybe they just pulled the WCW and flew a talent into a place to do nothing. Who knows? But I would love to see, like, why isn't Harry in NXT? He's been under contract since April. Harry is a great wrestler, the best technical wrestler in the world right now. And he's got size. He's got the family history, and you're not even using him. Doesn't make any sense. UFC 266, there's no numbers out of how many pay-per-view buys yet. John Jones was arrested on charges of domestic battery, vehicle tampering on September 24th, just hours after the UFC Hall of Fame ceremony that he attended. According to the police reports, Jones pulled the hair of his fiancée and headbutted a police car. Mark Henry's lawsuit stemming from his UFC 200 fight with Brock Lesnar, where Brock failed the drug test. It's apparently back on, with Hunt claiming Dana White knew that Lesnar was on performance-enhancing drugs before the fight. So, yeah. White says that the November 6th Madison Square Garden gate is going to be more than $8 million. Wonder if you're going to boost the performance of the night bonuses for the fighters from $50,000 for that one, because it was $50,000 all along, and there's been quite a bit of inflation since then, and your company is very successful. Tyrone Woodley apparently got the I Love Jake Paul tattoo on him based on the stipulation from their last fight, where the loser would have to do that. Woodley does want a rematch with Paul, but it's unlikely to happen. There really wouldn't be any benefit for it for Paul. He's already beaten him. Less people would be interested in seeing the rematch. There's bigger names he could fight. So not a huge amount of news this week. I am heading off to Wichita today to cover this event on Sunday for the Hannibal TV. Fuego del Sol versus Matt Hardy. Among the matches, Sandman's going to be there, Marty Bell, Jacob Fatu, Rodney Mack, former WWE and ECW star, Texas champion, the Blood Hunter, former NWA women's champion, Queen Erica, and many others. And it's going to be at the historic Cotillion. And in case you didn't know, the Blood Hunter is fighting Too Cold Scorpio October the 22nd in LA with Kevin Sullivan managing the Blood Hunter. I did post a Kevin Sullivan podcast on here today where he spent an hour talking about the Ultimate Warrior. I didn't see it yet. He also put over CM Punk's debut at the beginning of that podcast. He talked about CM Punk's AEW debut. He liked it. The other guy that liked it was Sean Stasiak, who I also interviewed this week. The Rye Dog just saw my Rockin' Robin interview. Someone only found out about her a decade ago. Mike King watched AEW this week and thought it was awful. Whether you like it or not, they do have fans. They do have I did watch the Adam Page against Jungle Boy match, and it's not my taste. It's not my taste. It looks too choreographed for me, but the fans eat it up. Not all fans, but the AEW fans. The Cult of Justice for all equal rights is how am I? I'm doing good. By the way, speaking of wrestling, I was working out early in the morning the other day, and I ran into my old baseball coach, who I haven't seen for a couple of years. And he mentioned he used to be a wrestling fan. And he brought up that he stopped watching it because it's too politically correct. And to me, that really sums up a lot about wrestling these days. The most politically incorrect thing in wrestling is the dark side of the ring that talks about all the bad stuff. But like, wrestling these days is too politically correct. That's one thing that I fully agree with my old coach on. I think the XFL might actually succeed to this M. Bison guy with The Rock running it, because everything he touches seems to turn to gold. Jason says Rockin' Robin had a good look. I agree. Someone is a big fan of mine. Thank you. Thank you for subscribing to this channel. Matt R. says the Blood Hunter will be wrestling this weekend. Yes. I do believe that might possibly be the most violent match in the history of Kansas. I do believe that that's going to be. I'm going to cover it. I'm definitely going to cover it. Paulie says XFL failed twice. Someone talking about, I don't quite understand what you're referring to. Rodzor, I've not heard that Billy Jack Haynes is dead. I'm actually expecting him to call me on my birthday, which is this month. He told me before he's going to make a point to call me on my birthdays. So the first time he did it, he was the only person that called me. The only person that wished me happy birthday that year. So, yeah. So he's on my side for that. I'll always remember him for that. Chuggler says Simon Fraser is in his city. Yeah, I really had 2 scholarship offers. One in, I made a lot of mistakes. I should have just stayed in amateur wrestling. But the other reason I didn't go to college was because my parents wanted me to go to SFU in Vancouver. And I wanted to go to the University of Buffalo, the Division I school that was recruiting me. And it was ultimately my parents that made the decision and made me agree to Vancouver. But I never actually wanted to go there because I'd already been on recruiting trips to Buffalo, and it was so much better. So they kind of made me not go to school for college for that reason. Instead I moved to Calgary for the Mat Rat stuff. Francisco says NXT is still doing good. Well, they went from 2 shows in the 0.2s with the new sets to back down to the low 0.1s. David checking in from Sydney. Well, I'm doing better. We're all doing better than you folks are doing in Australia. That seems to be the last place anyone would want to be right now. Greetings from California. Thank you. I do like California. Arizona is my favorite state. California is my second favorite, and Texas is my third. Colorado, for some reason, I found that maybe I shouldn't talk about why I like Colorado so much, but it would be up there. Let's just say there's something in the water there where the opposite sex seems to find me very attractive in Colorado, more so than other places. Oh, we have a troll. We have a troll. Nathan Ogden. Ogden is actually a slum area in Calgary. So, fitting last name for you. And yes, the wrestler that never was. Well, you might be surprised to know that I make a lot more these days than some WWE wrestlers. And I'm my own boss. And I do better and better every year. And I like what I'm doing. There's more to life than wrestling. I'm happy with my wrestling career. I wrestled Kevin Nash, Psycho Sid, beat AJ Styles twice in one night, Abyss, Honky Tonk Man, Brutus Beefcake, Kamala, Rick Steiner, Al Snow, Lanny Poffo, Savio Vega. The list is actually unlimited. I worked with Terry Funk. I've worked with Billy Graham. I've lived my dream. My dream is to wrestle those guys and work with them. It's not to wrestle the new wrestlers, but I've wrestled so many stars, and I don't care if I'm a wrestler or not. This is a lot easier. I don't have to leave my house. So I'm very content. But thanks for the view, Nathan Ogden, because you know what? Whether you like me or hate me, by watching this, you're making me money. So thanks a lot. Glenn says he hates when New Day comes on Raw. The other one's drafted to SmackDown. I don't know. Nathan Ogden, the troll, says the Blood Hunter should go to WWE. He's really far too violent for WWE. Far, far too violent. Resurrection 2015 NXT 2.0 with Zed. Carlos Ray saying hello. Alan agrees with me. Joey Gass interview with Professor Virgil, who Maria Davis tweeted out yesterday. The school where he claims to have taught has no record of him ever teaching there. And she is from Pittsburgh. What a character. The first wrestler to count money during my interview. And by the way, I only did that interview for people like Mike D, who were asking me for the Virgil interview every day. I noticed when people that actually tip me on a regular basis, that's actually helping my channel. I don't care if it's $2, $5, it all adds up to my monthly payment. And you guys wanted Virgil. I never found Virgil entertaining. I think he's not my style of person, for sure. Brian R, is Billy Jack Haynes still coming for you? The last I heard about him, I haven't talked to him. He left me a message on my birthday last year, and he said he no longer had a phone. He was calling from someone else's phone, but he wanted to leave me a message. And then I haven't heard from him since then. But I have heard from, I guess, the son of supposedly this woman he remarried that messaged the Great North Wrestling website and said that Billy Jack got married to my mother. They're living in Oregon. And I said, please tell him to call me. And I didn't hear anything back. Shay thinks the Wichita show is going to be great. Matt, yeah, Mike D, I don't even think you tipped at all in the Virgil one. If you did, it was like $5. But whatever, I appreciate it. Sometimes though, if you tip me $50 or $100, I will ask outrageous questions. But sometimes, if they're really not fitting to the person, which Mike will do sometimes, I just cannot waste my time asking a question unless it's for a significant amount of money. Alan says Billy Jack would be great to have as a stepfather. Yeah, I feel bad about him. He didn't save his money that well, but I'll give him jobs. This is one thing people can hate on me all they want. I am at least giving legends paydays. So you know what? Here's another reason to the guy that was hating on me for never being in WWE. I'm working with the legends. I interview them, and I can thank them by giving them paydays and also talk about their careers and honor them, because sometimes WWE doesn't do a documentary on all of them. Guy like Nikolai Volkov, my interview, I think, was the last shoot interview he ever did. So I'm like documenting history there. Nick tips me $5. Thank you. Why not go to AEW? Well, I haven't wrestled since May 2018. Would I be an interviewer for them? Sure, if the money was right and I could still do my own channel. But people don't necessarily like me there. Wrestling is very political. So I would not hold your breath for that. But between WWE and AEW, if one of them were to hire me for an interviewer, believe it or not, I actually do have a lot of friends in WWE. And sometimes they actually still ask me advice on wrestlers. So they don't all hate me there, but somebody holds a grudge against me there. But yeah, I'm very happy doing what I'm doing, and under no circumstances would I ever want to stop doing this channel because I like doing interviews. And I also like doing them in other domains. I do have an interview with somebody who's an expert in seances next week, and I am obsessed with UFO stuff. I'm always looking for credible people in that domain to interview, although I have interviewed some people on the more wacky side in that domain. Sammy calling the guy a troll. Resurrection does not like Harry Smith. You must have seen the Blood Hunter kick his ass earlier this year. Chainsaw Charlie tips me $5. Thank you, Chainsaw Charlie. Speaking of that, I'm going to go watch after I'm done packing that Dark Side of the Ring FMW special featuring Terry Funk, who was Chainsaw Charlie. Have a great night.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and click the subscribe button to not miss any of our latest shoot interviews, match videos, or news updates. Support us on patreon.com for $1.99 a month